Hey VC, Plastic Eric here, Plastic Soundwave Cult, here for a blistering hot edition of Collection Connection, the game that's just an excuse to talk about music. It's a game I play with my brother Bryce. Today I'm going to talk about an album. He's going to find a connection to that album, and maybe even a connection to Ollie here. And on Thursday, he will find an album in his collection that he connects to this, and then I'll do the same thing next Monday, and then he'll do it again Thursday. And the whole time, hopefully you guys can guess what the connection between the two albums are. And so, unfortunately, nobody was able to guess the connection between Bad Religion's Stranger Than Fiction and the Church's Starfish. And even though it seems like it would be a religious connection, that's not what it was. It was the fact that both of these albums are the only albums by these groups that made into the American status of being a gold album. And so both of these, in this case, it was their best-selling album that both went gold. So nobody got that one, but I did listen to the Church's Starfish, and I found it to be very good. I knew the songs Reptile, I knew Under the Milky Way, two fantastic songs. Listened to the rest of the album there. This is the first time I've listened to the whole album, probably up until this time. I think Reptile and Under the Milky Way were the only songs that I really listened to them. And I found the album to be quite good. It was, from what I understand and what I read about it, this album was a little bit more pulled back as compared to their normal albums. Holy shit. But as atmospheric as it is, it sounds like that maybe their other albums were a little bit more atmospheric. I don't know where their influences are, but it definitely made me think of like an Australian version of Psychedelic Furs. A couple of songs made me think of The Cure. Overall, though, the album was very good. I guess even some of the guys take turns taking lead vocals on the song. Other than that, that's all about I could say on that one, as far as I enjoyed it very much. So what did I connect it to? Okay, so if the title there gives you a little bit of a hint, I don't know how well it'll be of a hint, but I'm going to guarantee you this one's going to be a hard guess. And I wouldn't be surprised if nobody gets it, because Murdoch is actually on vacation, I think, for the next couple of weeks. So might be that nobody guesses this one is what I'm going to guess, which opens it wide open for like you, Steve Carlson. I think you ought to give it a go. I think you might be able to figure out what it is, but I'm not positive. But the album that I connected it to, Rock at the Edge. There's a compilation CD by various artists. The interesting thing about this album is, to me at least, is the fact that, well, there's a couple of things on it actually. One of the things being that it's Rock on the Edge, and all of these songs are by Patti Smith, Lou Reed, Ian Jury and the Blockheads, Blondie's on here, Iggy Pop is on here, Lou Reed's on here twice, and it does start with Patti Smith doing a cover of Gloria, which she kind of made her own, and then she also does another cover on this thing of My Generation by The Who. And so that's kind of interesting to me that she appears on here twice doing covers. And the other interesting thing that I find on this here, and I don't even know if this is going to be able to be seen. I'm guessing not. But this has a parental warning on it, in a sense. This album came out about a year after they started putting on the PMRC explicit lyrics tags on things. So this does have a warning on it, but it's not your regular warning. It just says, warning, there might possibly be lyrics and language on this album that you may find objectionable. And so it's funny how it's very small, right? I mean, you can see the writing, but I don't think you can make out what it says. If you can, just pause it for a second. But yeah, I find that interesting that it has some offensive language on here. And it's Rock on the Edge. And this album came out in 1986. All the songs on here are from 1975 to about 1978. So it's about 10 years later than the songs that came out, but they're still pretty edgy, I guess, at this point. Even though music had evolved a lot by the time it got to this point. And maybe it's saying that these were the guys that influenced the music that we have now, or in 1986. And so I found it very interesting that it was all older music, and it's still considered on the edge. I would totally agree that it was on the edge when they did it at the time, but since that time, they've almost become standards. I mean, Television's on here. Their famous song. Almost like the most famous songs from these people are on here, except for Iggy Pop, which is New Values. That song is basically in that area of sounded more like it was from the 80s than the rest of this stuff does. And again, I don't even know if that was his most popular song. I've never even heard it until I listened to this thing. Of course, Ian Jury and the Blockheads, Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll. Classic song. So that's kind of the reason why I kept this tape over the years. It's given to me by my buddy Deuce years and years and years ago. I think I told the story before that he thought it was interesting that I was into punk music, but I didn't know that much. And like the next day, and at the time I worked at 7-Eleven, and he would come in, and he'd always buy a couple beers and then go home. And then one day I was wearing, I believe, a Bad Religion t-shirt, and he was just like, "Hey, that's really cool. Do you like punk?" And I was like, "Yeah, I like punk." And he goes, "Well, have I got something for you then?" Because he found out that I didn't know that much at the time. Of course, this is like probably 1989, 1990. And he came back into work, and he had a big tub full of at least 50 to 75 tapes in it. And this was one of them. And so this does show some roots in American punk, especially that New York scene. And I believe all of these, I mean, it's on Arista or Arista. I'm not ever quite sure how that's pronounced. And so many of these artists are on that label. And so with that, I see that I am really pushing this one kind of long. And if you get a chance, listen to this. I don't know if it's on Spotify or not. But yeah, hopefully you can figure out